and this one is a strategic aerial combat board game that I think offers a lot of interesting mechanisms. Players are going to be choosing a scenario and then setting up the game board according to that scenario, and that's going to have different objectives, terrain, and starting positions for each of the players. Then each player is going to be starting with a certain number of planes and ground targets, and then they're going to be taking turns moving their planes around on a hex grid, with each of their planes having its own stats in terms of speed, armor, and special abilities. But something that I think is one of the most interesting aspects of this game is the way that the initiative works, because there's always going to be one player that gets to decide player order every single round, but then the determination of that player is heavily influenced by the formations that the players have out on the main board. And the way that you create formations is just by having the same type of planes adjacent to each other, facing the same direction, and also at the same altitude. And if you are the player that wins the initiative, then you are going to be the one that decides whether you go first or your opponent goes first. And these formations aren't only important just in determining initiative, but they're also important when it comes to your turn, because when it is your turn, you're going to be able to activate any one of your formations, activating each one of the planes within that formation. So this means that if you have more of your planes paired together, you'll be able to activate more planes in a single turn. And as I said, each of these planes can have different movement values, but they can also have different cones of fire, which means that they can hit different hexes in front of them. And when you move a ship, you can also choose to attack an opponent that's within your cone of fire. And another really cool aspect of this game is that when you do attack an opponent's plane, they do get the option to try and dodge the attack, but it does come at a cost because you can only move each of your planes once, so they're going to be using up that movement in order to dodge. And then it's also probably going to break that plane out of its formation, which, as I said previously, you want to have as many of your planes in formations as possible. And the game continues like this, with players taking turns back and forth until one player either completes the objectives of the scenario or successfully defeats all their opponent's units, and then that player wins the game. And if this one sounds interesting to you, you can check it out. I have links in the description below.